Good evening. It's good to see all of y'all here tonight. I'm stepping up and trying to help out and lead the way a little bit. Is there anyone here tonight who has not had an opportunity to partake in the Lord's Supper? We do have some. We will get that taken care of and then proceed on. We're going to be singing out of our songbooks tonight. It's not going to be on the screen. We came out of the men's meeting last minute and didn't have time to get that set up. Okay, our first song tonight is going to be number 23, Our God, He is Alive. Number 23. If you will, stand with me for the first song and remain standing for the prayer to follow. There is beyond the azure blue a God concealed from human sight. He takes his eyes with heavenly view and framed the worlds with His grace.
Boy, I think it's time we have to come together tonight. Study your word. Give the Jim Spring the rest tonight. Give Kevin the leader singing. Thank you, West, for giving us our lives. Thank you for your son, you know, the call. Lord, it's here. Be with me, sick we have, along with us. Be with Kevin as he goes to Texas. Be with him as he makes it today. Make it back to us. For us now, thank you for our service tonight. In Jesus' name we pray.
Please be seated. Our next song is going to be number 15, Step by Step. Number 15. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. I will sing you in the morning, and I will learn to walk in your ways, and step by step you'll lead me, and I will follow you all of my days, and I will follow you all of my days, and I will follow you all of my days, and step by step you'll lead me, and I will follow you all of my days. The song of invitation tonight is going to be number 915. Number 915 for the song of invitation. Our next song is number 63. I Will Call Upon the Lord, number 63. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. The Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let God of my salvation be exalted. The Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let God of my salvation be exalted. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. Though the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let God of my salvation be exalted. The Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let God of my salvation be exalted. I will call upon the Jim will have our lesson. I could try.
Good job, Kevin. Appreciate it. Always good to get fresh people up here. And, you already seem to know the first rule of song leading. Pick songs that everybody knows. And it's hard to go wrong with that. And I tell you, we have a good crowd. We're in stereo tonight. It's always better when we're in stereo, especially for the singing. So I do appreciate it. I tell you, I have been very pleased with our leadership meetings and really just our men's meeting. We got out of the habit of doing things, but this year we've been very diligent about having these, and we've had a consistent group, a good number of group. In fact, I know when I first came here, we had quite a bit more members at the time, but I'm not sure we had any larger participation, to be honest. So that's a good trend in the right direction, and hopefully it will continue. A lot of good was mentioned in there, and a lot of it was making preparation for the homecoming, the workday, September the 20th. By the way, it's a co-ed work day, so we'll have plenty of stuff to do, women or men. So if you can help out in some of those things, we'll probably get out a week or two earlier, and that way the things that you ladies might want to try to tackle, go right ahead. Some things that we're going to probably be doing, it's going to look worse before it gets better, but we're going to be removing the awning on the front, and it just has to come out. We know there's some type of damage. We don't know how much until we get it removed. So it's kind of going to be a two-stage process. Get it removed, examine it, and then see what we'll have to do with going back. Also, we do have plans. We had recently a projector and screen donated, and at the same time, we're going to be putting those up so that we can use them for different events and everything in the activity building. It's a big screen. It's like a 10-foot screen, which, for example, it's wider than what our screens do right now. So in the activity building, it should be rather massive, but it'll be a good size out there. And got a lot of things in the works. And I will say this, because I've always felt this way. I've been in a lot of congregations in my adult life. I have never seen a group of leaders that love to hear suggestions or input from the congregation. So if you have things you would like us to address, be it the workday, be it things that we need to do better, let us know, and it will be considered. Sometimes there's a reason why we can't do something, but I guarantee it will be considered and likely discussed. Our lesson tonight, Bow Down to the Image of Gold. Apologize, Kevin got me the song list in time, but with the meeting, sometimes they usually seem to, the more people you got, they run a little longer, and so I just didn't have time. I'm just pleased that the sound system's fine, because normally, I guess that's part of the OCD. I like to test everything, make sure the mics are right, make sure the sound's right. And so sounds okay. If you can't hear me, I'll speak up. But anyway, bow down to the image of gold. We're studying the book of Daniel. And by the way, a little segue I wanted to say, got a flyer in the mail the other day, and it was from, I don't want to say because I could be wrong. I think I know which church it was. But is this speaker coming? He's going to do this seminar on a variety of prophecy events. I would caution you about going to that. I don't know. I could guess based on the subjects and based on the pictures that he had represented, and some of those things we'll be discussing. Now, if you ever want to discuss a specific topic like that, let me know, and we'll be glad to cover it in a lot more I think, scriptural fashion than what some people in the world deal with things such as prophecy. I do plan on doing a special lesson, or at least a video on the nation of Israel. As Christians, must we support the nation of Israel? And I'll be doing that because there's a lot of confusion in the world today, especially in some Christian circles, that is a must, that we must do it. And so I will evaluate and let you know what Scripture says. I just need to get it together. Daniel 3. Now, we've been studying Daniel, and we had the introduction, the faith of Daniel, then Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And if you want to understand Daniel, you've got to use Daniel chapter 2 as the key. It unlocks the whole way you interpret the rest of it. To me, Daniel's not a difficult book to understand, at least the first 7 chapters, because they're just mainly history. But you get into some of the prophecy, and you really need to go back to Daniel 2 to get that key to unlock exactly what is going on. And then we have the bow down to image gold, Nebuchadnezzar's second dream. And by the way, that's one of my all-time favorite chapters in all the Bible. And hopefully you'll like it too. It's rather amusing if you don't think God has a sense of humor. Belshazzar's feast, and then Daniel in the lion's den. And like we mentioned, that's the history. It goes basically 70 years of the captivity. And then the prophecy section, well, it's kind of in order, but it goes in various realms as well. So it's not in chronological order as is the history part. We mentioned this, and this comes important today. These individuals, these young men at this time, had Hebrew names. And their Hebrew names, much like, there was a time even in our country where, you get a lot of biblical names. I've always seemed to me like more boys than girls. It seems like most Christian families like to name their kids in a bygone era after a Bible name, especially my age group. And so obviously I'm James. My brother's Thomas. A lot of people. My dad was Joel Thomas, actually. And so you have a lot of biblical names back in the day. That's not quite as in vogue, but there's still James, John, still show up occasionally. But in the Hebrews, they really wanted to name their kids with something that was speaking of who they worship. So Daniel means God is my judge. Hananiah means Yahweh has been gracious. Mishael and Azariah. Now, one of the first things they do, they stripped all these young boys. They were teenagers. They stripped them of their masculinity. They stripped them of their names. And the attempt was that they would then serve the gods of the Babylonians. So you have Daniel was changed to Belteshazzar. What's interesting is, as I've mentioned time and time again, we retain Daniel, his Hebrew name, but these others we remember more by their Babylonian names. Shadrach now means the command of Aku, the moon god. Meshach, who is this? Has no reference to God at all. And Abednego, the servant of the pagan god Nabu. So I would much rather we try to memorize the Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah instead of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, what it is when they're referenced to by the Babylonians, they're going to be called by their Babylonian names. But even Daniel is going to be the same way. When the Babylonians reference him, they're going to call him Belteshazzar. Last week in the dream, of course, we had this chart up, and it represents the 4 different kingdoms. They're initially mentioned, but yet it mentions a 5th kingdom, which is the church, the eternal kingdom. And Daniel 2, 44 and 45, as review, says, in the days of those kings or kingdoms, these 4, Roman Empire being the last, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed. Nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end. And it shall stand forever. Just as you saw that a stone was cut from a mountain by no human hand, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. A great God has made known to the king what shall be after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation, sure. And so this is the key to all the book of Daniel. And we see this especially for the prophetic portions. In verse 46 of chapter 2, then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face and paid homage to Daniel and commanded that an offering and incense be offered to him. The king answered and said to Daniel, truly your God is God of gods and Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries. for you have been able to reveal this mystery. Then the king gave Daniel high honors and many gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief prefect over all the wise men of Babylon. Daniel made a request of the king, and he appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Mishael, and Azariah over the affairs of the province of Babylon, but Daniel remained at the king's court. You know, it seems promising, and a lot of times, you know, you'll study or you'll talk to someone. I've even had people visit, and they're like, wow, I like what I heard, and they'll talk about the things they liked about coming to church here and the things that we speak and the things that we do. And they sound sincere, and I'm not questioning their sincerity, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, they're back where they came, and they no longer feel as strongly about what you said. It seems like Nebuchadnezzar truly felt that God was the God of gods, the King of kings, the true God. But we see that not really to be the case. And sometimes, you know, people have egos, and things can be said to them that will inflate their pride. And what did Daniel say God said? Now, this is something, I guess, to take clout in. God said through Daniel, you, king, are the head of gold. I'm guessing that over time, Nebuchadnezzar thought about this. Well, if Daniel's God said I was the head of gold, that's significant. I must be something really great. And yet it's quite obvious he still didn't quite understand the way God is, who God is, and that he's the only one who should be worshiped. You, king, the King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom and the power and the might and the glory, and into whose hand he is given wherever they dwell, the children of man, the beasts of the field, the birds of the heavens, making you rule over them all. You are the head of gold. That's pretty significant. If you was looking for a reference, from someone, I don't think you can get a better reference than from God to say something like this. But it goes to his head. And so we see what he is going to do. In Daniel 3, 1-7, King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits. That's 90 feet, if you don't normally think about cubits. And its breadth, 6 cubits. It's 9 feet. So it was 9 feet by 90 feet. I don't know if anything in Boonville's 90 feet tall. That's pretty tall, even by today's standard. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. In a plain, you could imagine, you could probably see it for miles and miles. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent to gather the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, and the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces gathered for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And the herald proclaimed aloud, you are commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages. And there would have been a bunch of them because they had conquered a lot of the world at this time, and they would take these people and assimilate them into their numbers. You're commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the trigon, the harp, the bagpipe, and every kind of music, you're to fall down and worship the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. I can just imagine this loud cacophony of music playing to where you could probably hear it for miles. And whenever you heard that, be kind of like our tornado sirens going off. Those things go off, you hear them all over town. And I'm glad you hear them. But yet when you heard these, you were to bow down and worship the image of the king. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into a burning fiery furnace. Therefore, as soon as all the peoples heard the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, all the peoples, nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Now, to these people, it was no big deal. They worshiped idols anyway. And so this is just another idol. It represents the king who was great. Even Daniel's God had said, this king is great and special. In verse 8 says, therefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward. Tattletales, I guess what we call them today. But anyway, they were observing. They probably knew a little bit about these three Hebrews. Came forward and maliciously accused the Jews. They declared to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that every man who hears the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, pay no attention to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Now, I don't know why, but they had observed these and they felt it important to tell the king about these. Now, we know that these four, if you add Daniel, they were kind of the head of the class. So these people, they had trained and went through this college-type system of Nebuchadnezzar. It could be some of these were jealous. But the fact is, they told on them. And, of course, the king would be infuriated. Why is this an issue to a Jew? To one that was observing the law of Moses. These three would not take the king's food nor his wine, and they remained pure, even though everything that was done to them would tend to lead them away from their religion. They could no longer return to the temple, even at the end of the 70 years, because they had been emasculated. But here we see that what is the reason? We see their faith was still strong. You see, this was one of the biggest no-nos to anyone who worships the true God. And the Ten Commandments, as they begin in Exodus 20, verse 2 through 6, it says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. Not only this is an admonition that you better not do these things, but it's also a promise that God's steadfast love would be for those who would remain true to his commandments, remain firm in their love for him. So as a result, there's no way that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego could comply with the king's orders. Now, we don't generally get thrust upon a 90-foot golden image. By the way, could you imagine how much that was worth? 90 foot of gold by 9 feet. But we still have temptations that rise to similar nature and have similar consequences. The works of the flesh in Galatians 5:19 through 21. Now the works of the flesh are evident. They should be really evident to a Christian. Fornication, sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, division, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do not do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. So although the law of Moses has been put away, it has been nailed to the cross, the morality of the things mentioned in those 10 items, 9 of those are repeated in the New Testament. So the fact about idolatry, not serving other gods, is mentioned here in the works of the flesh. You won't go to heaven if you do those things. But we don't have a lot. I know there are some foreign religions that come, especially Eastern religions, that still do some type of idol worship. I think you could probably contend that there is at least one Christian, quote, religion that has a lot of imagery and idolatry, I think, aspects to it. But we don't really get that a lot. But we still have the issue of idolatry, which really is putting anything ahead of God. And I think in America, we have a serious problem with that. People put a lot of things in. It's, I think, a good reason why it's not just us. I think we've done pretty good today, but a lot of churches around the country, they'll have a significantly higher attendance on Sunday morning than Sunday evening. Colossians 3:5-6 says, put to death, as a Christian, you should put to death your old man of sin, what is earthly in you, sexual immorality, fornication, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness. Put in things so that you want something of someone else, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming. So we don't have a 90-foot tall golden image, but yet we may have that bass boat that's really enticing us to go fishing on a Sunday. We may have family members that say, hey, why don't you just spend time with your family, not go to church today? We may have work obligations that says, this is more important. And on the list could go. And those are true temptations for us. Will we remain pure like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? The fiery furnace, that was their capital punishment, the land of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in a furious rage, you ever seen someone really mad? I don't think the king, Nebuchadnezzar, was someone you wanted to make mad. Commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. They brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar answered them and said, is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I've set up? Now, if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into a burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands? Now, I will say this, that in this rage that Nebuchadnezzar was in, he must have actually liked Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He's going to give them an opportunity, and all's okay. When it's played again, y'all just fall down and worship, and all will be good. You got to like, in this adverse situation where the king is already angry, heated, where he's told them the consequences, and he's given a second chance. How many people do you think would have said, well, I'll do it. Won't mean anything to me, but I'll do it to save my life? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. These three, in essence, said, our God is able to deliver us, but regardless, if he doesn't, we are still not going to do it. Well, facing death. First century Christians, they faced it. Revelation 2:10, do not fear what you're about to suffer. Behold, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and for 10 days, just a simplification of that means an incomplete period of time, not a long period of time, but not pronounced. They didn't know how long it'd be. You'll have tribulation. Be faithful unto death. Literally, the meaning there in the Greek is unto the point of death, and I will give you the crown of life. I've read in many places where, in essence, there was times when the Roman soldiers would come, and if they found out you were a Christian, they would put a spear to your heart and say, "Who's your king? Caesar or Jesus?" At the point of the spear, what would you say? And so John was compelled by the Spirit to write this. Be faithful unto the point of death, and I'll give you the crown of life. Now, I don't know how many of y'all have been around a furnace before. You know, it's not a thing that you get a lot of. I had the privilege, I guess you would say it, when I was in high school. I worked at a supermarket, little supermarket. It was Food Town at the time, but I don't even know what it's called now. But it was a little thing in a small town at the time, although that small town is now enveloped by Nashville suburban sprawl. But at the time, it didn't have a whole lot. It had, I think, a Mexican restaurant and maybe a McDonald's on the interstate exit, a hotel, and this supermarket. And we were rather busy. It was well run. And, the bigger supermarkets, they'd have box crushers, and I guess they still have those things. But we had a furnace, and it was cool. Concrete block building. It went up probably at least as tall as this church building is here. Concrete block, although the concrete block where the furnace was, it was charred black from all the years of use. In the morning when you were stocking, you would put some cardboard or something in it, you would light it up. And there's a blower in it that would blow that, increase the heat. And as it got more and more boxes in it, you would have to step kind of to the side. And it took a little bit of weight because the doors on it were these large cast iron doors. They just clanged when you let it shut. And you'd have to kind of step to the side and open it up because that flame would crawl up to the top. And you'd have to then throw something in there. I don't think OSHA would have been pleased with that. Of course, we'd have fun with it. You get a dented can. Open it up, throw that dented can in. It's like a grenade going off. You'd shut it and it'd go off. Especially you had something like maybe a, aerosol can. You'd throw that in there. You'd let it go, and it'd go boom. It'd just rattle, for probably a minute. Everything like everybody'd be like, "Oh, that was nice." But anyway, it was hot. You would singe your hairs on your arm by the end of the day. A fiery furnace. That's how they executed people there. There would have been some type of enclosed environment. You would have had some way of using bellows or something to have heated it up with wind. And see, that superheats it much higher than just a normal fire. And that's how they executed people in Babylon. I can't imagine a more extreme way of dying than being thrown into a fire. What do you think? Nebuchadnezzar was already enraged. And now they flat out told him, "You don't have to ask us. We're not going to do it." It says, then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and the expression on his face was changed. Like I say, he actually liked Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but when they rejected him to his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times more than it was usually heated. I don't know how they would have done it, but they would have had some type of bellows, and my guess is they really whipped it up, put a bunch of stuff in there that burned to an intense heat and really increased the wind to bring that heat up. And he ordered some of the mighty men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to cast them into the fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their cloaks, their tunics, their hats, and their other garments, and they were thrown into the burning fiery furnace. Because the king's order was urgent and the furnace was overheated, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That flame, as they opened the doors, and I guess it was a similar system where it was some type of iron and they would lift it up and that fire would just come out. And it was so intense, it came so far out that the men who were to throw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in, that fire actually consumed them. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell into the burning fiery furnace. Now, you know, there's a lot of stories in the Bible where that would have been the end of them. And their resolve and their faith would have been exceptional, and they still would have been highly regarded, I think. They had faith that God could, but they didn't know that God would. And I think that shows a greater faith on their part. Well, what happens? Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste. He declared to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said, "The king, true, O king." He answered and said, "But I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods." Now, there's a lot of differences in how that is worded and translated, and just about every translation may do it slightly different. I think the King James actually said, like the Son of God. Some will say something like this, a son of the gods or a son of God. And there's a lot of debate, and a lot of scholars have debated, and most of them lean towards, well, Nebuchadnezzar really didn't believe in the true God yet, and so, you know, how would he know about this? And so it's most likely he would have said a son of the gods is what he would have meant. The problem is the Aramaic doesn't distinguish the differences in this. So it could be translated either way. Now, so, you know, is it son of the gods? Is it or son of God or the son of God? And I think we missed the point. It doesn't really matter what Nebuchadnezzar thought. I think the better question is, well, who was in there with the 4? And it's not really clear on that, but I want to tell you there's a lot more possibilities on that, because it really doesn't matter who was in there. It doesn't matter what Nebuchadnezzar thought. Yeah, it could have been an angel, but I want to tell you, don't dismiss that it may have been something greater. And why do I say that? Well, because Daniel is about prophesying about the Son of God, about prophesying about the Messiah, the Christ, the Anointed One, about prophesying about the eternal kingdom, the church, and that, yes, indeed, the Son of God would have to die for mankind. Just a few examples that we'll get to in more depth later, but in Daniel 7:18-22 it says, "But the saints of the Most High," by the way, once again, remember the key to these prophecies are going to be that Daniel chapter 2. Because over and over it's going to talk about these 4 kingdoms. "But the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever." Once again, the church, forever and ever. "Then I desired to know the truth about the 4th beast, and which was different from the rest, exceedingly terrified, with its teeth of iron and claws of bronze," once again talking about the Roman Empire, "which devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. And about the 10 horns which were on its head, and the other horn that came up, and from the 3 of them fell, and the horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke great things, and that seemed greater than its companions. As I looked, this horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given for the saints of the Most High. And the time came when the saints possessed the kingdom." Without question, when we're talking about here, we're talking about Jesus Christ. We'll get into that. And so it is possible that this individual that was there could have been the very pre-incarnate Son of God. We have other passages in Daniel 9:25-26. "Know therefore and understand that from the going out of the world to restore and build Jerusalem to the coming of the Anointed One, a prince, which prince in those days just meant a ruler. The anointed one, the Messiah, you can interpret, or the Christ. There shall be 7 weeks. Then for 62 weeks, we'll get into that later. Be here for that. It shall be built again, squares and moat, but in a troubled time. And after these 62 weeks, an anointed one, once again the Christ, shall be cut off. He's going to die. He shall have nothing. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Its end shall come with a flood, and to the end there shall be war. Desolations are decreed. The New King James in Daniel 6, Daniel in the lion's den, which is still decades away from happening at the time of Daniel 3. Daniel says, my God sent his angel. The New King James capitalizes that, show God's angel. There's some unique references when that is sometimes used. And shut the lion's mouth, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. Now, Daniel wouldn't have known exactly who this Son of God was either. He didn't understand a lot of the prophecy that he's going to be given. But my point is this. It was a great angel, or very possibly the pre-incarnate Son of God. Doesn't matter what Nebuchadnezzar thought. You know, things are what they are. Nebuchadnezzar at this time still didn't think that the God of heaven was the one true God. Continuing in verse 26, then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fiery furnace. He declared, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, listen to how he changed his tune so easy again. He's getting closer each time, but servants of the Most High God, come out and come here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. And the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, and the king's counselors gathered together and saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of those men. The hair of their heads was not singed, their cloaks were not harmed, and no smell of fire had come upon them. You can ask Mr. Reed back there how unusual that would be. To go into where a fire is even nearby and not smell of the smoke. I think it's a good smell, but these people, not only were their hairs not singed, not only was their clothes not burned, but they didn't even smell of fire. Amazing. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants and who trusted in him, and set aside the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree, any people, nation, or language that speaks anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their houses laid in ruins. For there's no other God who is able to rescue in this way. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. These men stood up for their faith, and they were rewarded for it. It impressed Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, he was impressed when Daniel did something, able to tell him what his dream was and then interpret it. Here he sees a miracle in another sense. He again is impressed with the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, he's still got lessons to learn, and we'll see that in Daniel 4. The fiery furnace. Peter says in 1 Peter 5, 6-8, Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your cares or your anxieties on him, because he cares for you. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. How easy it is to succumb to temptation. I can't imagine being given to the point of death. I think sometimes we may even say, well, I would be able to do that. I don't think truly when your life is to that point, I don't know that we can really say. I would hope that we'd do the right thing. I'd pray that we'd do the right thing. I'd pray I would. Just shows how remarkable these young men were. Are you willing to stand up for Christ, even if it meant you would die for it? That's what these men did. They didn't know that God would save them, but they stood up for what is right. Humble yourselves. God will raise you up. He'll lift you up. May not be exactly when you want it to be, but if not in this life, in the next to come. Are you a Christian tonight? I know this is the faithful of the faithful, but if you're not a Christian, why not make that decision tonight? Paul was told, why are you waiting? Rise and be baptized and wash away your sins. Call on the name of the Lord. Or you're here tonight, maybe you've made the wrong choices when it's tested your faith. Maybe you've made things in a public nature you need to make right tonight, or maybe you just need prayers of the church. Whatever your need may be, come now, together we stand and sing.
When we walk with the Lord in the light of His word, what a glory He sheds on our way. While we do His good will, He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus. But to trust and obey. Not a shadow can rise, not a cloud in the skies, but His smile quickly drives it away. Not a doubt nor a fear, not a sigh nor a tear, can abide while we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Then in fellowship sweet, we will sit at His feet, or will walk by His side in the way. What He says we will do, where He sends we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey.
Before we have a closing prayer, we'll do prayer. Just remember Kevin Cameron in your prayers. He'll be traveling tomorrow to go to Dallas, and hopefully get something they can do Tuesday. What it is, but just be sure to keep him.
Pray with me, please. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day and the opportunity we've had to come together and worship. Father, we thank you for all the blessings you give us each and every day in our lives. Father, we pray for Kevin as he travels from Texas. We pray that the doctors will give him some answers. We pray that you give him a safe journey there and a safe return home. Father, I pray that you be with us as
Thank you.